because the Vision just turned on Seth Rollins and we have feelings. Welcome to a Notsam Wrestling emergency podcast coming off of a Perth, Australia episode of Monday Night Raw where Seth Rollins got laid out by Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed. And man, is there a lot to talk about here. And that's why, there's everywhere to talk about it. Now, of course, this was a special early edition of Monday Night Raw, and I've got to tell you, I thought the Raw from Perth would be a decent episode of Raw, but I didn't think there would be anything tremendously, hugely noteworthy happening. But listen, there were all these rumors last week that we should get ready for some WWE creative shakeups, and we got them. Started on SmackDown, into Crown Jewel, coming out of Crown Jewel, and now on to Monday Night Raw, where Seth Rollins has been turned on by Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed, and technically Paul Heyman too of the Vision. The show starts with Seth Rollins, who is no longer in his state when it comes to Cody Rhodes. He's no longer in this position where he's insecure, where he doesn't know if he can win. He's now proclaimed himself the GOAT, and really, I thought it was a hot take coming off of Crown Jewel that I'd get on the podcast and say, well, he's going to fight John Cena because John Cena's called himself the GOAT and Seth Rollins called himself the GOAT. And while that could all still be true, and I think it's all still on the table, everything has to be pushed aside on the table right now to deal with what's directly in front of us, including the fact that we had a number one contenders match that led up to this. So we get Seth Rollins. He comes out. He's looking good. He's in his plaid. And he's in the ring with the Vision, Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed, Paul Heyman. And we haven't seen the Vision together much. Leading into the mixed tag with Becky Lynch versus CM Punk and AJ Lee. And then really at all leading into the Cody Rhodes match. When the Vision needed help, Seth Rollins was not there a couple weeks ago because he was thinking about Cody Rhodes. When the Vision's business revolved around Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins was not there because he was in the back asking Paul Heyman what happens if he loses. He cuts this promo, right? And if you go back now and look at the clues that we got on screen, like you're watching The Sixth Sense and spoiler alert, figuring out the guy was dead the whole time. Now you know. But then you didn't know. And you certainly didn't know it was going to happen on that episode of the show because Seth Rollins is saying, I don't need anybody. Roman Reigns needed the Shield. I don't need anybody. He said, I don't need anybody in this ring. I chose them, but I don't need them. And Bron Breakker is, looking back on it, visibly upset as he's saying this. And Paul Heyman has a look. You know what I mean? He's not, he's playing his cards close to the chest. And Bronson Reed doesn't look ecstatic, but he looks like a soldier. He's not doing much. Paul Heyman doesn't look thrilled, but he has this look like, you're the boss. I'm going to let you speak. I'm not sure you entirely know what you're saying here. But it goes back to this idea that usually Paul Heyman's groups are Paul Heyman's groups, but this is a Seth Rollins group that Paul Heyman is simply a part of. And that's usually not how Paul Heyman exists. And then we get further into the show, and Seth is talking about how proud he is of Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker and how, between them and marrying his wife and having their daughter, those are the three things he's most proud of. Their growth as superstars ranks right alongside the birth of his daughter and his marriage to the man, his wedding, the marriage itself, the exchange of vows with the man, Becky Lynch. And that's big. That's huge. And so at the end of the night, CM Punk, who, by the way, while we're talking about heels that don't get along, is in this triple threat match full of baby faces who also don't get along. We could do a whole nother show on the baby faces. But CM Punk wins the number one contendership. He goes forward, and immediately the music plays. It's Seth Rollins' music. It's the Vision's music, but it's Seth Rollins' music. The Vision comes out, and Bron Breakker owns the room. Bron Breakker does what Roman Reigns told Jey Uso he needed to do. First, Bron Breakker runs down that aisle and cripples Jey Uso with a spear. And then he looks at CM Punk, who's in the ring, kind of ready to take him on. And he tells CM Punk to watch this. He sees his prey from across the ropes, and he spears LA Knight out of his boots. And then Bronson Reed shows up ready to get in the ring. Braun Breaker's ready to get in the ring. And the two get in the ring, and while CM Punk is able to throw a couple haymakers their way, it doesn't do much. Because Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker take him out, take him down, and leave him laying. Seth Rollins shows up. Ha, 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 ha. His men have done his bidding for him. And Seth Rollins dangles the World Heavyweight Championship over CM Punk's face, saying, you'll never get this. This will never be yours. This will never be yours. And we get to this ending that is poetic, this ending of the show that looks very similar to the ending of the Monday Night Raw after WrestleMania when the Vision first formed, when it was just Braun Breaker, Paul Heyman, and Seth Rollins. And they all held their hands together in victory as Roman Reigns laid at their feet. Only this time CM Punk had been thrown out of the ring, and the credits come up for Paul Levesque and Lee Fitting, and the copyright logo comes up in the corner, vintage NXT TakeOver style. And as Seth Rollins is walking towards the front, if you look back on it now, I've watched it a couple times, Seth Rollins is walking towards the front of the ring, leaning over to tell everybody who the man is. Braun Breaker has kind of made his way to the corner. He's not happy. He's got his hand on his head. He doesn't like the vibe here, and decides to do something about it. He turns around and he spears Seth Rollins, and nobody, I mean nobody, can believe it. Seth Rollins gets speared, laid out. Bronson Reed has stepped back to go like, okay, something's happening here, and Paul Heyman is horrified. Braun Breaker goes to Bronson Reed. They have a beautiful camera shot of Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker with Paul Heyman's horrified face in between them. And Braun Breaker gives Bronson Reed the choice. You can go with me, and he kind of just points down to Seth Rollins, at which point Bronson Reed doesn't take long to think about it, and he goes right for Seth Rollins, goes back into that very familiar place for Bronson Reed, and tsunamis Seth freaking Rollins. And Braun Breaker snatches the World Heavyweight title away from Seth Rollins. And Paul Heyman approaches them as if he has no choice, but does it in a way where he has made a choice. Grabs their wrists, holds their arms in the air, and the three of them look down on Seth Rollins. That's the scene that is similar to what we got when Heyman, Rollins, and Braun Breaker look down on Roman Reigns. Bronson, Braun, and Heyman are now looking down on Seth Rollins. After only, April, May, June, July, August, after 6 months, it would appear Seth Rollins has lost control. And in a world where we're sitting here trying to figure out what's going to happen with the number one contender, CM Punk, in a world where we're sitting here getting ready to start truly fantasy booking War Games, everything has gone awry. Because Seth Rollins was not set up as a babyface on this show whatsoever. Seth Rollins had no humility. Seth Rollins had no kind words to say about Cody Rhodes. If anything, Seth Rollins was taking the ownership for himself. And Perth, Australia erupted when this all went down. Perth, Australia erupted when Paul Heyman raised the arms of Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. And look, the fact is that in a world of wrestling where we've looked, and the guys on top are established stars. You know, LA Knight is finally getting a little bit of shine, but the guys on top are the established stars. And the idea that we have not only seen this massive story beat, this massive storyline moment, this moment that really does change everything that's in front of us, but we've also, in real time, seen the ascension of Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. That now that Seth Rollins has been laid out, and 48 hours before Bronson Reed pinned Roman Reigns, you've got a duo who are absolutely in contention for that World Heavyweight title. You've got a duo who, for the first time in a long time, are young men, young superstars who pose a legitimate threat to the experienced stars. Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, based on everything we've seen on this television show, pose a threat to CM Punk. They pose a threat to Seth Rollins. They pose a threat to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns can't get past them. The Usos couldn't get past them. All of a sudden, it all starts to make sense. And you wonder a lot, right? First of all, you wonder how this plays itself out. Is there a world where Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker become de facto baby faces just because what they're doing is so cool? I don't think so. But are they going to get cheered anyway? I don't think Seth Rollins gets cheered, but I don't see how Seth Rollins is a bad guy when he's the one who got jumped. Also, the match that we're building towards is theoretically Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. Unless you're doing something where Seth Rollins is going to be off TV and you figure out a way to have a match where, I don't know, Bron Breakker and CM Punk are fighting for a vacated World Heavyweight title. I mean, that's one way you could do it. But otherwise, I mean, Seth Rollins, and we're going to have to wait a week before we get this, but Seth Rollins is going to have to touch a microphone and explain who his character is. Because it's going to be tough for you to tell me he's the visionary if his disciples are gone. And he doesn't have an oracle anymore. He has no group. Everybody, even though he beat Cody Rhodes, the thing that he was afraid of happening if he lost to Cody Rhodes happened even though he beat Cody Rhodes. And I think it happened for a couple of reasons. Number one, he was taking Bron Breakker for granted. He was taking Bronson Reed for granted. These guys were taking care of business, and he made it seem like they were kind of just there to be foot soldiers to him, even though he could get the work done anyway. Now, Seth Rollins had every right to say he could get it done by himself because he did get it done by himself with Cody Rhodes. But I think it really helped having Paul Heyman, Bronson Reed, and Bron Breakker there to watch your back. If you have a plan to take over the entire industry, that would probably be helpful, no? So, I mean, how do you get to CM Punk versus Seth Rollins one-on-one if you have Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed floating right there? And is Becky Lynch in the mix on all this? Is Becky Lynch going to have Seth Rollins back? I don't know if there's much she can do, but maybe she can take the place of the Oracle, but she's not really a manager because Becky Lynch is one of the top wrestlers on the roster. She's got her own thing going on. I mean, it is so unique because it's so incredibly compelling, but also fairly baffling. We're a month and a half, 6 weeks away from War Games. Who's going to be on what team in this War Games match now? If you're putting together a team of a super team of heels and a super team of baby faces, everything just got completely mixed up. Are you going to go back and have Paul Heyman say, Seth Rollins, you can rejoin us, but you've got to stay in line? Is Seth Rollins going to rejoin a group where there is no real leader? If so, doesn't that make Seth Rollins look weak? I mean, I don't know what Seth Rollins does to come out of this, but the angle itself was so good that you kind of have to have faith in it. You kind of have to have faith in the idea that something good is going to come out of this because, man, did it play out well. You've now created where you had a line, you've now got this tree full of branches that could go in God knows how many directions with all this going. But ultimately, you've created something where the narrative was, well, Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed are going to be ready for WrestleMania like 43, maybe 44, maybe 45. No. You've just created a scenario where they're in the discussion for WrestleMania 42. You've just created a scenario where if I told you Bron Breakker was going to win the Royal Rumble, it's not so far out of the realm of possibility. If anything, it kind of makes sense. I mean, there's no way Rollins goes back to Bron Breakker, Bronson Reed, or Paul Heyman. He would look terrible if Seth Rollins did that. I mean, you could go, well, what if it was another ruse? But to do another ruse of the century, you just did a ruse of the century. I can't see it being a ruse of the century. I mean, what you can do, I guess, is have Seth still be a heel. And maybe he becomes an edgy babyface throughout the process. But when he should not change that much, I don't think. I think, honestly, if I'm doing it right now, I go, I told you I didn't need you, and I don't. I'm still the world heavyweight champion. I'm the crown jewel champion. You didn't help me win that. I won that. And you can't get this world heavyweight championship off of me when I'm looking face to face at you. I'm going to beat CM Punk by myself. I'll beat either of you by myself because I'm the visionary. I mean, I kind of feel like Seth has to like double down and go, I don't need any of you. I stand by exactly what I said last week on Monday Night Raw. And then maybe it becomes this mission where Paul Heyman is stuck in this spot where he kind of needs the title to come off Seth Rollins. Because if Seth Rollins is able to come out of this and maintain his status as world heavyweight champion, then all of a sudden Paul Heyman is the one who looks foolish. But you've now got scenarios where you've got, what are the super matches with Seth Rollins? I want to see Rollins versus Punk. I want to see Rollins versus Roman. I want to see Rollins versus Bron Breakker. I want to see Rollins versus Bronson Reed. Maybe this is the thing where the visionary doesn't need a group. Maybe this is a thing where the prophecy was exactly what Seth Rollins said. And maybe in the process of Seth Rollins getting all of this done by himself, maybe within the process of Seth Rollins accomplishing all the goals that the vision had without the vision, then all of a sudden he kind of does become a bit of a babyface, but he doesn't change anything. There is something there. I think Paul Heyman works much better with Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker than he did with Seth Rollins. I don't think the Paul Heyman-Seth Rollins relationship was ever fully explained, cemented, however you want to say it. I don't think I ever really got there with figuring out exactly who they are. Who is Paul Heyman to Seth Rollins? If Seth is calling all the shots, what is it that Paul Heyman is really doing? Is he just getting Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker to SmackDown? Because theoretically, if you look at Rollins' big moments, some of them have the vision, but some of them don't. You know, and I think in the last couple of shows, when it was like, I mean, starting from Clash in Paris, really, he won the championship at SummerSlam. Paul Heyman was by his side. But then the next show was Clash in Paris. That was Becky that helped him. Then the show after that was WrestlePalooza. He lost, but that was Becky with him. And then the show after that was Crown Jewel, and he didn't have them with him at all. So since he's been world champion, all these massive moments have been without the vision. And Seth Rollins still comes across as a main eventer. Seth Rollins still comes across as a star. And he lost the mixed tag, but that's it. And maybe it does make it more compelling. Like, okay, like what if the move is to go in to Saturday night's main event with CM Punk versus Seth Rollins? Maybe that's where they'll have the championship match. I have no idea. And now Seth Rollins is going, I'm going in by myself. I don't need them. And I'm going to take care of them when I'm done taking care of you. But CM Punk, regardless of what my business is with Bron Breakker, regardless of what my business is with Bronson Reed, you will never have the World Heavyweight Championship. And if Seth Rollins can beat CM Punk without the vision, that's massive. And what if, okay, now, all right, now we're talking, okay? If Seth Rollins becomes an edgy babyface without the vision, who is Roman Reigns' beef with? He didn't say his beef was with Seth Rollins. He said his beef was with CM Punk. We are waiting for this match between Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins to come. We still are waiting for a Cody Rhodes-Roman Reigns match to come. But on the road there, we ended up seeing a tag team of Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. Roman Reigns doesn't want anything to do with the Usos. What if the direction that we're going in is Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins on the same team? What if Bronson Reed and Bron Breakker become such a force that Roman Reigns has to take it to a place that he never thought he would take it to? What if this is all building to, and maybe that's where War Games is going? What if you have a War Games team where you have Roman, Punk, Rollins, and maybe Jay, and maybe Jimmy? versus Brock versus Bron versus Bronson versus whoever else. Maybe instead of Jimmy, you put John Cena in. Maybe you throw Drew McIntyre in over here. I don't know. But that's a way to do it without Cody Rhodes, so you can still have Cody Rhodes defending the WWE Championship at Survivor Series War Games. But what if it's all building to, what if it's building to, and I don't know when you do it. Maybe you do it at the Royal Rumble as a match. Maybe you do it on the John Cena Farewell Saturday Night's Main Event, unless that's going to be all John Cena tributes. But I've now talked myself into the idea of we could be headed towards Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed. Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins do not like each other. However, they know there is magic there. And if there is one force that could bring them together, it is their collective disgust for the wise man Paul Heyman and the fact that they have now both been wronged by Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. If Roman Reigns doesn't want to see Jimmy and Jey Uso till Christmas, what if on the way there, he teams with Seth Rollins, who, besides this match with Roman Reigns, has now committed to fulfilling the mission of the Vision on his own? What if the two of them take their singular rivalries? Roman Reigns has made himself into an island. He wants nothing to do with the Usos. Seth Rollins has been forced into an island. The Vision will have nothing to do with him. Now they both have a beef with the Vision. Now they're both two guys who used to do a lot of things that a lot of people didn't like that now have to fight for themselves on their own. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns versus Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed is a hell of a tag team match. Let me know what you think. You can email me, notsamwrestling@gmail.com. We'll get to it on another podcast. You can call in the radio show on SiriusXM. You can leave it in the comments on YouTube. YouTube.com/NotSamWrestling. You can write it in the review section of podcasts on Spotify and Apple. We'll talk to you real soon. If there was ever a reason for an emergency podcast, here it is. Here. And by the way, we also covered this on the SiriusXM show, which you can check out on Pro Wrestling Nation. And we covered this on WWE Raw Recap on the WWE's YouTube channel. Guys, you're the best. We'll talk soon.